The most prized young master of the conglomerate, my boss's 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 boss, someone I'd hold elevator doors open for if we ever crossed paths, yet one day, he suddenly appeared by my workstation, his eyes rimmed red. I regret it, in our past life, I shouldn't have divorced you, Kathy, let me marry you again, this time, I'll never mention divorce. I quietly closed the novel page I'd secretly opened and said, well, but I'm already married now, Chandler Taylor. A wealthy second-generation returnee with an impressive resume, at a young age, he assumed the position of general manager in the company. Every woman in the company couldn't help but exclaim upon seeing him, damn, he's handsome. My best friend and slacking-off partner Sarah said that someone as high quality as Chandler Taylor must have many women around him, but Chandler Taylor is a workaholic, though he's gone through several batches of female secretaries. No one has ever managed to win him over. One day, Sarah and I worked overtime until dawn. She suddenly collapsed with a thud, falling to the ground like someone struck by sudden death. I rushed over in panic to administer first aid, calling her name desperately. 2 seconds later, she opened her eyes. My tears hadn't even reached my chin yet. She stared blankly at me and said, Kathy, Kathy. She actually called me by my full name. Horrified, I quickly leaned in closer, only to smack. She slapped me across the face. You stupid love-struck fool, you're not allowed to marry Chandler Taylor. I stared at her in complete confusion. Has she gone mad? Who the hell is Chandler Taylor anyway? He's not your typical rich second-generation heir. The conglomerate his company belongs to is entirely owned by the Taylor family, who are rolling in money. Even someone like Sarah, a nouveau riche second-generation heir from a demolition-compensated family, might not necessarily marry into that circle. She said that during those 2 seconds of sudden cardiac arrest, she saw the future. I will marry Chandler Taylor. Then 7 years later, he asked for a divorce. Sarah and I grew up as close as brothers. I believed everything she said. I quickly asked the most crucial question, did you leave with nothing? Sarah was displeased that I interrupted her and gave me another flick on the forehead. She said, 3 months later, while accompanying clients during a reception, I took a tumble. He fell right past his supervisor, his supervisor's supervisor, and his supervisor's supervisor's supervisor, landing directly in Chandler Taylor's arms. He caught me in one swift motion. Our eyes met, and we remained locked in embrace for a full minute. Then, he abruptly pushed me away. I fell and split my ass open, but this was how our fate began. Somehow this matter reached Chandler Taylor's mother's ears, so that's how it is. Chandler Taylor, he's got issues. He couldn't touch any woman without feeling nauseous. I became the exception. Taylor's mother had my birth chart analyzed. The results showed I was exceptionally auspicious for marriage, practically heaven sent to be the Taylor family's daughter-in-law. So she made a prompt decision and arranged for me to become Chandler Taylor's fiancé. Chandler Taylor neither opposed nor accepted this arrangement. He was extremely busy with work and barely interacted with me. He would take me back to the Taylor family's ancestral home for dinner once a week, and his secretary would deliver gifts to me for every holiday. Other than this, there was nothing else. How could I refuse such a good thing? A husband as if dead. And so, half a year after our engagement, we got married. Then, 7 years later, Chandler Taylor recovered from this ailment and asked me for a divorce. Hearing this, I nodded and said, as expected. After all, I didn't like him either. Chandler Taylor and I were simply not the kind of people who could live together. I love gnawing on pig's trotters. He eats Iberian premium ham. I roll up my sleeves and grill skewers by the roadside. He dines on omakase in a tailored suit. By the way, did I have any children when I got divorced? Sarah paused briefly before answering. Yes, you had 3, but when you divorced, none of them wanted to go with you. Well, damn. Turns out I'm a mother of 3. Chandler Taylor and I don't belong to the same social class. He was heaven's favored child. As for me, my parents died early, and I was never much to look at. Fortunately, I grew up next door to Sarah and her mother. Being a sturdy, chubby kid, I never went hungry after they moved in. I'd only caught a distant glimpse of Chandler Taylor during those corporate meetings I attended before. Surrounded by admirers like stars circling the moon, he never even noticed me. 7 years have passed. And Chandler Taylor keeps saying he doesn't like me. He probably truly has no feelings for me whatsoever. Sarah said meaningfully. You're a peony who's never bloomed. You wouldn't understand. Although he says he doesn't like you, he's slept with you for 7 years. You're different to him, I retorted. If he can't touch other women, wouldn't he just keep milking the same sheep? These past 2 days, a new intern joined the company. The boss personally brought them to our department and said, Kathy is quite experienced, and she happens to have a project underway. You can learn by working alongside her. This is the very project that nearly worked Sarah and me to death with overtime recently. It's currently in its final stages. Clearly, this person has connections. Just swooping in to pluck the ripe fruit. Sarah's face darkened immediately, but there was nothing he could do. The female intern was named Bella, and rumor had it she knew Chandler Taylor. Some even said they were childhood sweethearts, and that their names matched perfectly, but later, Bella's family went bankrupt and fled abroad to escape debts, only returning in recent years. Chandler Taylor's mother liked her very much and brought her into the company, a professional white dress from head to toe, every strand of hair meticulously styled. Sarah rolled her eyes. She didn't say anything, nor was I interested in asking. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at the day Sarah had been dreading. Our department accompanied Chandler Taylor to receive the client. Sarah handcuffed us together as if arresting a criminal. If we fall together. At worst, you take the lead and I'll follow. I'll stay with you. Before I could even feel touched, I met my colleague's gaze. My colleague glanced at the handcuffs binding us, their eyes flashing with the words, scandalous behavior, then silently shielded us from the boss's line of sight. Chandler Taylor still hadn't shown up. Important people always make their entrance last. I waited for a long time, but Chandler Taylor never showed up. His secretary came to inform us that he had urgent business today and couldn't make it, sending another deputy general manager instead. I glanced at Sarah, silently asking with my eyes, is this how the future unfolds? Sarah also looked puzzled, but it doesn't matter, I'm about to burst. I quickly unlocked the handcuffs and rushed to the toilet, but right around the corner, I saw someone, like a European male model, handsome as hell, and somewhat familiar. The moment he saw me, his gaze froze for an instant. As I brushed past him, he called out to stop me. Kathy, do you hate me so much that you won't even look at me? Oh, I remembered. I'd seen him from afar at last year's annual gathering. He is Chandler Taylor. He frowned and said, there's no need for you to pretend with me. You deliberately avoided meeting me multiple times. Wasn't it because you didn't want to encounter me again like in your past life? Unfortunately, you didn't get your wish. But what does previous life mean? So Sarah saw the future. Chandler Taylor has memories from a past life, while I, the protagonist, know nothing. Good-looking people are truly different. Even when speaking ambiguously, it's still pleasing to the eye. If we didn't have children and didn't leave empty-handed, 7 years of marriage wouldn't have been a bad deal after all. Seeing my silence, Chandler Taylor's voice grew colder. Are you unwilling to even speak a word to me now? His clenched hands and sharp gaze fell upon me, brimming with displeasure, so I obediently opened my mouth. Good afternoon, President Taylor. Chandler Taylor seemed even angrier. Kathy, we were husband and wife after all, even if I've wronged you in some way. Does that mean we can't even be friends anymore? There was actually a hint of grievance in his tone. I truly couldn't understand what he was trying to achieve. According to Sarah, ours wasn't the kind of relationship that could sustain friendship. What's more, he was the one who filed for divorce. All I got out of it was the villa we'd been living in at the time. Just then, Sarah called, urging me to hurry back. I hurriedly bid farewell to Chandler Taylor and ran off without looking back. Not long after receiving guests, Chandler Taylor unexpectedly appeared. Even his secretary showed a momentary look of surprise. Sarah sneered repeatedly. Her murderous gaze pierced through the crowd, landing squarely on Chandler Taylor standing not far away. 5 minutes later, Bella unexpectedly arrived as well. I remember calling out to her before leaving, but she refused. She must have changed her mind after hearing Chandler Taylor had arrived. Bella said right away, I want to get more involved in work, to learn and improve myself as quickly as possible. Chandler Taylor's gaze rested on her, completely different from how he'd looked at me moments ago. Utterly gentle, the boss said. Bella graduated from NH University, one of the world's top institutions. Bella quickly responded with modesty, I'm not as good as Brother Chandler, but I do have a PhD. From Yale University, Brother Chandler. the moment these words were spoken. The expressions of those present varied dramatically. Sarah rolled her eyes so hard it looked like she was possessed. Several male colleagues seemed quite regretful, as if without Chandler Taylor they would have had a chance to pursue Bella. Bella's voice was clear and melodious, her bright eyes filled with unmistakable admiration. Chandler Taylor's expression grew increasingly gentle. It was strikingly different from his usual cold, stern demeanor at the company. At this moment, Sarah scoffed lightly. Damn couple. Suddenly, inspiration struck me. Could it be that Bella was the reason Chandler Taylor and I got divorced? This conjecture was further confirmed when Chandler Taylor stopped me. He said, "Kathy, you haven't made things difficult for Bella because of me, have you? I've already told you, what's between us has nothing to do with her." Before I could speak, Sarah had already pulled me behind him. Her acting was impeccable, flawless down to the last detail. Her expression was a perfect blend, 3 parts confusion, 3 parts anger, 3 parts maternal protectiveness, and 1 part delighted surprise at encountering an idiot. "President Taylor, my Kathy doesn't fancy your type, don't be so full of yourself." Chandler Taylor froze momentarily. He instinctively looked at me, but I just stared back at him with dead fish eyes. He sighed, somewhat annoyed, and said, "Sorry, I didn't pay attention to the occasion." He clearly didn't believe Sarah's words and automatically ignored them. Just then, Bella came looking for him. "Brother Chandler, I brought you a bottle of water." I seized the chance to leave with Sarah. As we brushed past Chandler Taylor, he suddenly grabbed my hand. Who knows what got into him? "Kathy, you've misunderstood." I leaped 3 feet away, dodging Chandler Taylor's hand as if avoiding something filthy. Chandler Taylor's face instantly stiffened. "Do you really hate my touch that much?" He misunderstood. I do feel a bit uncomfortable around him, but the main reason is that I haven't had much contact with men. Yet I still nodded firmly. Chandler Taylor said with a darkened expression, "Then these 7 years sharing a bed with me must have been quite the hardship for you." His words had barely left his mouth when Sarah slapped him across the face. Sarah, furious beyond measure, shouted, "President Taylor, this is workplace sexual harassment. Watch out, or I'll go to the police." Chandler Taylor's head tilted to one side. It seemed Sarah had put her full strength into that slap, holding absolutely nothing back. Bella screamed, "What are you doing, you crazy bitch? I'm calling the police right now." Before Chandler Taylor could even process what happened, she instinctively shouted upon hearing Bella's words, "Don't call the police." Bella's complexion didn't look too good. Sarah swaggered as she pulled me away. After this incident, Chandler Taylor seemed convinced that I hadn't been reborn. In the following days, he frequently passed by our office area. He even had his secretary privately contact me, saying he wanted to make amends, claiming he'd had a bit to drink that day. The apology gift was a Hermes bag, the kind that requires a 1:3 purchase ratio, truly worthy of a capitalist, but he might have bought it secondhand. Either way, Chandler Taylor is incredibly generous. Then Sarah chimed in, "Disgusting, in your past life. He never gave you anything. It was always his secretary who delivered gifts, and what was his excuse? That as the lady of the Taylor household, you had professionals to buy jewelry for you. No need for him to bother." Yet he turned around and bought Bella a 3 million pink diamond necklace. Now he's putting on this act. I took the bag to a luxury resale shop and deposited a hefty sum into my bank account. Within a few days, Chandler Taylor contacted me again through work software, saying he wanted to apologize in person. Of course, I didn't agree. Sarah even seized the moment when there were many people around to go up to Chandler Taylor and say, "We've accepted Director Taylor's gift, but there's no need for a face-to-face apology. Let's just consider this matter closed." Chandler Taylor looked rather embarrassed. He's always been one to care about face, never having encountered shameless people like us. But even so, Chandler Taylor still refused to give up. He probably came to confirm whether I'd truly been reborn. Knowing my home address, he tracked me down. He arrived just as Sarah was playing video games at my place. Through the door, he said, "Kathy, I'm sincerely apologizing and would like to invite you to dinner." "I've already reserved a table," Sarah called out loudly. "President Taylor, my Kathy actually already has a handsome guy she likes and doesn't want to have dinner with you. Give up." Chandler Taylor's voice abruptly vanished. Outside the door, silence lingered for a long while. Before leaving, Chandler Taylor said, "Kathy, you don't need to make such excuses. If you don't want to see me, just say so. I'm not the type to cling desperately. In our past life, it was I who wronged you. If you ever need anything in the future, just contact me. As long as it's not too unreasonable, I can make it up to you. After that day, Chandler Taylor never appeared again. Sarah still couldn't rest easy. She signed me up with 10 matchmaking agencies. Meanwhile, someone at the company started talking about Chandler Taylor and Bella. People spotted Bella in Chandler Taylor's office more than once. Others saw Bella getting into Chandler Taylor's Rolls-Royce Cullinan in the parking lot. As for me, I've been on several blind dates in a row, all ending in failure. Sarah refused to give up, but the reasons for failure were painfully obvious. Few of the blind dates were even normal people to begin with. Even the relatively normal ones didn't catch my eye. Sarah pondered for days before dragging me to the local sports university, saying she'd find me a college boy. She said his name was David, and that he'd meet me 8 years later, after my divorce when I was living alone. He happened to move into the neighboring villa. We saw each other frequently and eventually took a liking to one another. She said that by then she and her husband had already gone abroad, so she wasn't clear about the specifics between me and David, although he's also an unreliable rich second generation. If you like him, you could just have some fun. I responded with a disinterested, oh, it all sounded quite unreliable, not suitable for an honest person like me. But the moment I saw David on the basketball court, my mouth watered. Standing at 190 centimeters tall with smooth muscle definition, when he jumped, you could see 8 chocolate-like abs. The match is over. Go give him some water. Sarah gave me a push. Hello, here's your water. I haven't figured out my lines yet, so I had to just blurt this out. David froze momentarily when he saw me, then instantly broke into laughter, revealing a row of gleaming white teeth. He took a sip before saying, "Thank you, sis, but this isn't my water." I was utterly embarrassed, completely baffled by what he meant. The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. David continued, "But I accidentally drank it. Let me add your contact info so I can transfer the money to you." Huh, you're keeping accounts this meticulously. Do you look down on me that much? Suddenly, someone shouted, "Watch out." A basketball came flying straight at me. David pulled me into his arms in one swift motion. I bounced lightly against his firm chest muscles when we collided. His body was drenched in sweat, beads rolling down his sharp jawline. I couldn't help stealing glances at his tank top, the firm pectorals and well-defined abs rising slightly with each breath. How embarrassing. My face burned crimson, steam practically rising from my head. David lowered his head and asked, "Are you okay?" I shook my head repeatedly. I'm fine. David suddenly looked somewhat troubled and said, "See, I just protected you. Would it be too much to ask for a bottle of your water?" I nodded repeatedly. "Not excessive at all, sis." "Then what reason do I have left to add you as a friend?" I froze on the spot. David laughed, looking like a cunning old dog. "He's just too good at this. Typical unreliable rich kid. But I don't mind." I chuckled and opened the QR code, saying, "No reason needed. I'm giving you this chance." When I turned my head, Chandler Taylor was standing not far away, glaring at me coldly. Chandler Taylor had been reborn 5 years after divorcing Kathy. Upon hearing news of her remarriage, he flew overnight on his private jet to see her, yet just before boarding, he suddenly collapsed. Sudden cardiac arrest. Fortunately, fate took pity. He was reborn at age 26, 1 month before colliding with Kathy. He remembered his past life. Back then, he had filed for divorce. Kathy didn't press the matter. He breathed a sigh of relief. The day after the divorce, he went to Mother Taylor's place for dinner as usual. Mother Taylor refused to see anyone, keeping her door shut. She was still angry. She did like Kathy as her daughter-in-law, but there was nothing she could do if Chandler Taylor didn't like her. 7 years, and still no fondness. Bella brought lunch she made for Chandler Taylor to his office, more tender and affectionate than usual, with exquisite makeup and captivating glances. The curvaceous beauty personally arranged the dishes with graceful movements. Chandler Taylor was momentarily stunned. Unfortunately, his schedule was packed with meetings, and he still had a dinner engagement. No time to eat the lunch she'd prepared. His relationship with Bella was completely innocent. That's what he told Kathy when he brought up divorce. They were friends, childhood sweethearts. Not that kind of sordid relationship. Kathy's best friend, Sarah, made a special overseas call just to curse him and Bella. Her curses were full of vigor. It didn't sound at all like the voice of someone terminally ill with cancer. The second month after the divorce, Kathy had already resigned and no longer appeared in his life. Chandler Taylor didn't feel much about it, except when he instinctively called out, "Kathy," while wanting water. The empty villa echoed with silence. Even the housekeeper didn't respond to him. The second year after the divorce, Chandler Taylor suddenly remembered Kathy again. He missed Kathy more and more, missed her terribly. Perhaps those 7 years meant more to him than he'd ever imagined. He had already come to regard Kathy as family, but when they divorced, the company had financial problems, so he didn't give Kathy much alimony, just that villa. The dishes on the table were very light. This was his dietary preference, unlike Kathy's. Not only in dietary preferences, but also in many other aspects. He was completely different from Kathy. They were simply not cut from the same cloth. In the office, his secretary brought him lunch. He frowned and asked, "Why isn't there any spicy food?" Kathy had no appetite for this. After saying it, even he froze. Just then, the secretary announced Bella had arrived. Chandler Taylor instinctively asked, "What's she here for?" The secretary looked somewhat puzzled. Previously, Bella had come and gone freely from Chandler Taylor's office without ever needing to state a reason. The secretary quickly said, "I'll go ask Miss Bella." Chandler Taylor waved his hand dismissively. "Don't bother, let her leave. I don't have time to see her." During this period, Bella came over every other day. It wasn't anything particularly important. Sometimes she'd reminisce with him about their childhood, other times she'd fuss over whether he'd been eating well or catching colds lately. Fair-skinned and beautiful, gentle and attentive. If he were to remarry, it should be a woman like this, not someone like Kathy. That's what he thought before filing for divorce, and of course, he still thinks so now. As he passed by the pantry, he overheard someone gossiping. The head of the marketing department got married again just 1 week after her divorce. This time she landed herself a handsome guy 18 years her junior. Chandler Taylor stopped in his tracks. How could a woman remarry so quickly after divorce? It seemed he had never considered that Kathy might remarry. That very night, he finally couldn't resist and sent someone to inquire about Kathy's recent situation. The news came quickly. Kathy was no longer in the capital, madam. Miss Kathy's close friend Sarah suddenly passed away abroad. Miss Kathy left the country overnight. According to her neighbors, Miss Kathy has no intention of returning. She's sold the villa, and she didn't leave alone. Taylor Tingyin snapped the cigarette in his hand. Never coming back. That night, he sat until dawn. He couldn't understand. Why could Kathy be so heartless that she'd abandon her 3 sons, just like that? She ran off with another man, no matter how much she hated him. She was still the child's mother and shouldn't have been so cold. Without a complete family or a mother's companionship, it greatly affects a child's growth. Fortunately, all these were just things from his past life. From the very beginning of this life, he had overcome his psychological issues. Last time when Bella handed him water, she accidentally touched his palm, though he felt somewhat unaccustomed. His reaction wasn't particularly strong. This time, he wouldn't delay Kathy's life anymore. He could properly marry and start a family. Kathy wouldn't dislike him either. He didn't believe Kathy wasn't reborn. If she hadn't been reborn, how could she have avoided encountering him time and time again? Of course, he had unconsciously avoided her too, with their emotional foundation from their past lives. Though they couldn't be husband and wife, they could still be friends. Just like him and Bella. At this thought, he couldn't help but curl the corners of his lips. There was no one like Kathy by his side. Come to think of it, being friends with Kathy would probably be quite a pleasant experience. But why does he always want to go looking for her? He missed her so much he couldn't sleep all night. When dawn broke, he decided to go find Kathy. The flush on my face hadn't yet faded. Seeing David, Chandler Taylor's eyes suddenly blazed with anger. His voice was filled with resentment. "When I asked for a divorce in our past life, you left so quickly. Had you already been with him?" Chandler Taylor's eyes reddened, as if he'd suffered the deepest heartbreak. "But Sarah clearly told me, it was him who fell in love with someone else, and him who asked for divorce. Chandler Taylor never married me out of affection to begin with. During the first 2 years of our marriage, every intimate moment between us felt like an obligation to him." Closing my eyes, I met my heroic demise, fortunately. I later developed a taste for it, or rather, grew accustomed. Chandler Taylor and I managed to produce 3 sons. At the same time, he lacked any sense of boundaries whatsoever. The first time I caught Chandler Taylor and Bella dining alone together, I sensed something was off. Bella called me sister-in-law with apparent friendliness, then immediately served Chandler Taylor a portion of food with her chopsticks. I was somewhat curious about how they'd resolve this long-distance consolation. Chandler Taylor didn't explain a single word to me. As luck would have it, after the first encounter came the second, the third, countless times, sometimes at art exhibitions, sometimes at auctions, always at high-end venues. Chandler Taylor was utterly self-righteous when he asked me for a divorce. He said he'd done nothing wrong by me, neither had Bella wronged me in any way. Their relationship was completely pure. He just doesn't love me now. After years of psychological counseling and intimate contact with me, his issues have mostly improved. Enough to divorce me. My 3 sons don't side with me either. They prefer Bella, who often brings them gifts, and so, I signed the divorce papers. The day I moved out of the Taylor family villa, not a single person came to see me off. After listening to Sarah's words, I felt a tumult of emotions before my eyes. Chandler Taylor still wanted to say something. I turned around immediately wanting to run. It's terrifying. I refused to become a mother of 3. After just a few steps, someone appeared beside me. It was actually David. Sarah had just pushed me onto the basketball court moments ago before wandering off elsewhere himself. David's long legs carried him effortlessly as he ran, still having the leisure to ask me, "Sis, was that your ex-husband?" In a certain sense, yes, my husband from a past life. Seeing that I didn't respond, David's gaze grew meaningful, suddenly. He hoisted me onto his shoulder. "This way we'll move faster." I glanced back at Chandler Taylor. He stood alone in his original spot, like a discarded dog. Finally, outside the art studio, he spotted Sarah admiring the nude model. Sarah wasn't surprised to see me with David either, directly asking while looking at David, "Did you fall in love with my Kathy at first sight? What nonsense is she spouting?" Unexpectedly, David's dark complexion flushed crimson instantly as he stared at Sarah in shock. A few seconds later, he muttered, in agreement. Sarah nodded in satisfaction and began questioning him meticulously. She confirmed he had a clean background, no fiancé, no childhood sweetheart, and no unattainable, white moonlight, love. She even checked his bank account balance. Her thoroughness left me utterly dumbfounded. "This is only our first meeting." After receiving a satisfactory reply, Sarah waved his hand generously and declared, "I approve of you pursuing Kathy." Before I could react, David had already let out a long sigh of relief and said, "Thank you." It wasn't until David had left that I remembered to defend myself. "I don't really like him that much." Sarah pinched my cheek flesh and rolled her eyes with practiced ease. "When you open your mouth I can see straight to your guts. When you lift your ass I know whether you'll fart loud or silent. How could you not like him?" I thought someone as aloof-looking as Chandler Taylor would stop coming after being rejected a few times. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be rather persistent. After Sarah's rebirth, he became extremely busy. One moment he was investing here, the next moment investing there, just like a seasoned investment expert, taking leave every other day at work. As for Sarah's search for a partner, according to Sarah, she married the school heartthrob from our high school days in her past life. Coming from a poor family, yet exceptionally driven, her judgment proved right. The school heartthrob eventually succeeded in his entrepreneurial venture, though the initial funding came from Sarah. Just like in their past life, the heartthrob took the initiative to add Sarah as a friend during a class reunion. Watching from the side, I had to admit, the heartthrob was strikingly handsome with impeccable charm. For some reason, Sarah refused this time. "Oh no, my phone's out of battery." Such a lame excuse was obviously transparent to the school heartthrob. After being rejected, the school heartthrob's eyes betrayed a hint of unwillingness. Over the following week, he engineered several more chance encounters, but Sarah greeted him each time with icy indifference. I asked Sarah if the campus heartthrob had done something unforgivable to her in a past life. Unexpectedly, Sarah shook her head. "He's done nothing wrong to me. He provided ample emotional support, even driving me to and from work during his startup days." Later, when I couldn't conceive, his mother had strong objections. but he never divorced me, Sarah smiled wryly, just that later when I got cancer, he sent me abroad and moved his mistress into our home. Actually, I didn't lose out. I've spent far more of his money than what I initially invested in him. And he covered all my medical treatment costs afterwards. I didn't have as many emotions as Sarah. I only caught the key phrase. She had cancer. Since childhood, Sarah and Auntie Chen had always protected me. Both my dad and her dad ran off with other women. My mother disappeared within a few years too. Grandma came to the city to check on me once a month, just making sure I was still alive. If it weren't for Aunt Chen and Sarah, I don't know what I'd be like now. I couldn't hold back my tears. Sarah said, "What are you crying for? It's not like it can't be cured. You don't know who I married later. Is it because you died too early?" Sarah suddenly fell silent. "It's fine. I get regular checkups now. I won't die young again." "Don't you dare say that word," sniffling with snot bubbles. I glared at her accusingly. She coaxed me until I had no choice but to agree, finally deciding to take me to watch male models dance. Is this even a thing? But I'm willing to go. The male models had 8-pack abs, and after dancing, they sat beside me, feeding me drinks. I've got the lustful thoughts but not the guts, just wanting a visual feast, so I quickly declined. Little did I know Sarah would wave her hand grandly. "Sis will take you guys for a spin," and just like that, 2 male models followed us out of the nightclub. In the parking lot, I turned my head and unexpectedly saw Chandler Taylor, dressed in a tailored suit. Chandler Taylor stood beside the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. After a brief moment of stunned silence, he quickly regained his composure. "Kathy, did you know I had a dinner engagement here and deliberately followed me? Are you trying to make me jealous with this?" I rolled my eyes. "You're in the way." He looked at me somewhat helplessly, as if thinking I was throwing a tantrum because my pride was hurt. Sarah sneered, casting a glance at Chandler Taylor. "President Taylor, this isn't the company. We'll take our leave first." The male model moved to wrap his arm around my waist. After a moment's thought, I didn't refuse. If it could piss off Chandler Taylor, that was good enough. I walked a few steps away, then glanced back at Chandler Taylor still wearing that infuriatingly knowing expression. A sudden surge of anger rose in my chest. What gives him the right to be reborn? Does his rebirth exist solely to disgust me? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Finally, under Chandler Taylor's stunned gaze, I punched him square in the face. Chandler Taylor couldn't touch women. The first time in this life a woman laid hands on him was when I struck him. He looked at me in disbelief. "Kathy, how could you hit me?" My next heavy punch was my answer to him. The emotions that Sarah had just soothed exploded like a bursting boiler. I straddled Chandler Taylor, throwing punches that landed with solid thuds. Soon, Chandler Taylor had no breath left for words. Chandler Taylor's secretary was blocked by Sarah and 2 male models. After a while, she finally came over to pull me up. All right, President Taylor didn't mean to." I took the opportunity to stand up and leave, while Chandler Taylor remained collapsed on the floor. The secretary called security guards who blocked my way. Chandler Taylor quickly waved his hands, signaling the guards to let me go. "Kathy, do you hate me so much because you still love me, and that love has turned to resentment?" I turned around and kicked him. "I'm not close with you." Chandler Taylor looked at me with amusement, as if he'd already seen through my tough act. Sarah sized him up, a cold smile curling at the corners of her lips. She said, "It seems President Taylor hasn't had enough of my scolding from his past life." Chandler Taylor froze momentarily before widening his eyes in shock. Being so clever, of course he understood. It was Sarah who was reborn, not me. Only then did he realize I wasn't Lady Taylor who had spent 7 years with him. Nor was I Kathy who had borne him 3 children. Now we're just 2 strangers. I feel nothing but annoyance toward his harassment. Sarah and I walked quite a distance, yet Chandler Taylor remained standing there motionless, gazing fixedly at my retreating figure. That very night, perhaps he had drunk quite a bit. After returning home, I had a very strange dream. In the dream, I got married. Though considered low-key among wealthy circles, the wedding was still quite grand. So grand that my father and mother showed up uninvited. Chandler Taylor is handsome and wealthy. Many classmates envy me. Even Sarah said I married well. Truth be told, I wasn't particularly in love with Chandler Taylor, but he was handsome and wealthy, a good marriage candidate. Women always harbor certain fantasies about handsome men. Who knows, maybe he'll fall in love with me, a fairy tale of a prince and Cinderella. Besides, after Sarah married the school heartthrob, she had much less time to spend with me. Never mind, then let's get married. That day, Chandler Taylor didn't seem to be in a good mood either, and he was almost late. In the evening, he planned to work overtime at the company, but ended up getting scolded by his mother, which made him abandon the idea. He stood before our marital bed, staring at me coldly. "You brought my mother into this, you've gotten your way." I examined him carefully. He was indeed handsome, just a bit too thin and pale, and not too bright upstairs either. Chandler Taylor cast me a cool glance with those aloof eyes of his and said, "In the future, I'll grant you the honor of being Madam Taylor, but don't hope for anything more. I will never love you." "Nonsense. If you're unwilling, why didn't you make it clear to your mother?" I rolled my eyes and went straight to sleep. Chandler Taylor stood by the bed in surprise for a moment before climbing onto it as well. His hand reached for my waist. "Tonight is our wedding night." I understood the implication behind his words. "You just finished saying you don't love me, and now you're demanding I bear your child." Because I simply couldn't comprehend Chandler Taylor's twisted logic, his groping hands harassed me beyond endurance. This was probably his first time doing something like this, though his face remained stern. His eyes betrayed a growing loss of control. I turned the tables and pinned Chandler Taylor down on the bed. What happened afterward? Well, let's just say it was passable at best, all bark and no bite. When I forced him to submit, Chandler Taylor flushed crimson and called me shameless. In the end, he even burst into tears. Then, Chandler Taylor got angry and stopped talking to me, but I was unlucky. I fell for it immediately. Chandler Taylor and I treat each other with respect, though he is distant. He never makes things difficult for me. I'm living quite comfortably, but others don't see it that way. They think my husband doesn't love me, that I must be miserable, but I simply couldn't bring myself to feel miserable. Spending $5 million in a month makes it genuinely hard to suffer. 2 years later, while swiping Chandler Taylor's card, I passed by a banquet room in an upscale restaurant and saw him being pressured to drink. Gratefully stepping inside, I announced I was trying to conceive, effectively rescuing Chandler Taylor from his predicament. Chandler Taylor watched me in astonishment the entire time. That night, he repaid me with his body, and just like that, I became pregnant with our second child. The difference was, this time he took extra care of me, truly acting like the child's father. Like many fathers, he also had a close female friend. Bella and him went skiing together, horseback riding together, on business trips together, and attended high school reunions together, all right under my nose. I didn't mind. The first time we met, I even felt a little embarrassed. I interrupted their pleasant moment. I hastily retreated and turned to leave, but Chandler Taylor seemed to misunderstand, thinking I was jealous of him. He declared righteously, "A man like me was never meant to have just one woman by his side. You should learn to be understanding. You scared Bella, making her think she'd offended you somehow. You shouldn't have embarrassed her like that." He apologized to Bella on my behalf by buying her a pink diamond necklace worth tens of millions. The incident was later discovered by reporters and ended up trending online. Chandler Taylor thought I was the one who tipped off the journalists. He put this debt on me. He stormed back to the villa, ate with a dark face, and after finishing his meal, took his frustration out on me again. I couldn't make sense of it. Rewarding me was one act, punishing me was the same act. Does he think his is some diamond-studded spiked club? Life is just so dull and tedious. Chandler Taylor is clingy and annoying, overly sensitive, and quick to give the cold shoulder. Still an internet dinosaur who doesn't get any memes. He has a very sensitive stomach and can't eat street food or dine out with me. All 3 sons take after him in this regard. They know their father holds a high-ranking position of power, while I'm just a housewife who holds a nominal position in his company for Social Security benefits. Whenever I try to say something to educate them, either Chandler Taylor and Taylor's mother interrupt me, or Bella, who often visits, ends up lecturing me instead. Sister-in-law, children shouldn't be raised with oppressive discipline. You shouldn't scold them like that. The eldest son held Bella's hand, blinking his starry eyes as he said, "Sister Bella, I want to marry you when I grow up. I absolutely refuse to marry a woman like Mom, lazy and gluttonous, completely useless to Dad." For the first time, the thought of divorce crossed my mind, but when I saw the $5 million monthly allowance deposited punctually into my account, I hesitated again. Never mind. After all three of them bear the Taylor surname. Even without me, there would be no shortage of people to teach them, even if they knew nothing at all. They wouldn't need to work multiple jobs like I did to pay their tuition. Their wealth would last them several lifetimes. I thought this kind of life would continue until I kicked the bucket, but unexpectedly, as Chandler Taylor's condition improved more and more, everything took a turn for the better. Chandler Taylor finally made up his mind to abandon me, his wife whom he had never loved from the very beginning. The day he asked me for a divorce, I sat there dazed for what felt like ages. I wasn't particularly sad, but I wasn't happy either. The girlish expectations from years ago had long since vanished, yet to say I'd truly suffered heartbreak, that wasn't the case either. Chandler Taylor said he couldn't provide me with alimony for the time being. I didn't really mind. I've never had much desire to possess other people's money, apart from bearing 3 children. I haven't contributed much to the Taylor family anyway. It's always been the nannies and secretaries taking care of Chandler Taylor. I've spent quite enough already. Even if he doesn't give me alimony, there's still $100 million left in my bank account. I left, gone as swiftly as the wind. Chandler Taylor's mother didn't even have time to see me off. On the very day I got out, I flew to the Maldives. I needed to clear my mind. While flying kites on the beach, a tanned handsome guy blushed and struck up a conversation with me. Sis. I dropped my phone in the sea. I ignored him. Later, I went to Rome again and ran into him by the Trevi fountain. Do you believe in love at first sight? I shook my head. I didn't believe in it. The only things I believe in are lust at first sight and dollar signs in someone's eyes. The handsome guy with dark skin walked away helplessly. We met again later, him driving a sports car with a bouquet of roses. I thought about it. It was indeed Chandler Taylor's usual style from back then. I just got divorced. If you don't mind, we could have some fun. His eyes lit up. I slept until the sun was high in the sky. After waking up, I carefully recalled every detail of my dream. David and I played until he couldn't go on anymore. David came to pick me up after work downstairs at our company. He stood there awkwardly holding roses, waiting for me downstairs. That bouquet of roses looked exactly like the one in my dream, just as radiant, just as passionate. It was the 17th day he'd come to pick me up. Sarah came to the company today, a rare occurrence. To complete her resignation procedures, she glanced at David and remarked, "Such a hopeless romantic isn't easy to come by." I blushed bashfully. Sarah was exasperated by my lack of spine. David blushed when he saw me. He walked me downstairs, and 2 hours after saying goodbye, he still hadn't left. I secretly tugged at David's hand. So warm, it's so big. I couldn't resist kissing David on the cheek. David's head instantly steamed up, yet he still stubbornly said, "Aren't you afraid I'm just playing with you and not serious?" I'm not afraid, because I know the answer. Besides, I'm not losing out either. In my past life, David and I lived together until we were old and gray. At 80 years old, he still remembered to buy me flowers on his way back from walks. Hearing my answer, David finally couldn't hold back. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me. I took the opportunity to feel his chest muscles. An indecent smile involuntarily spread across my face. We kissed for an hour, breathless and panting, and before I could even catch my breath, I locked eyes with someone. Chandler Taylor stared at me wide-eyed. He demanded, "Kathy, what are you doing?" Before I could speak, David cut in first. "None of your damn business." As he spoke, he deliberately kissed me again. Chandler Taylor's lips trembled, on the verge of collapse. "Kathy, could it be that you've truly changed your heart? How could you treat me like this?" I ignored Chandler Taylor and walked hand in hand with David through the door right in front of him. The security door closed, shutting out Chandler Taylor's utterly devastated face. David was quite the gentleman. After entering my home, he sat politely on the sofa for a short while before excusing himself to leave. I called out to stop him. I asked him why he liked me. Actually, he had already answered this question for me in our past life. A cliched case of love at first sight from an old-fashioned boy. He saw me washing dishes while memorizing vocabulary words. Then he ordered takeout, and when the door opened, the delivery person was me. Then, it became love at first sight when youth reunited. Love is like planting trees. Our feelings grew stronger day by day, peaceful and serene. Before me, David seemed to have made up his mind as he told me about the past. He might have thought I'd feel embarrassed upon hearing it. Not a chance. I'm so proud of myself for working this hard. How does that saying go again? That was my journey here. I worked my way through college to get into graduate school, then landed a job at a great company, except for the general manager, with project bonuses reaching 6 figures. Before David could finish speaking, I had already grasped his hand. Evening. Through the window, I spotted the Cullinan parked under the streetlight. Chandler Taylor leaned against the car, smoking a cigarette. He kept smoking until 2 a.m., still standing there. A few days later, while I was slacking off at my workstation, Chandler Taylor appeared again, in full view of everyone. He stared at me without blinking, like a creep. I got goosebumps. Bella had just called out, "Brother Chandler." When Chandler Taylor cut her off, "Last night, David didn't leave your place." Ignoring the gossipy looks from their colleagues, Chandler Taylor glared at me fiercely. I met his gaze calmly, and in the end, it was he who looked away. He seemed to age suddenly. A hint of obsession flashed in his eyes. "I see. It must be because you don't remember your past life that you don't like me. You don't remember me. That's why you're willing to use another man to provoke me." I stood there dumbfounded. Was this his way of comforting himself? Fine then, we can start over. We can have 3 sons again. They must miss you terribly. As Chandler Taylor spoke, his eyes actually reddened. The look he gave me was full of hope. "I can marry you again. This time we won't get divorced." I quietly closed the novel interface and flashed the ring on my hand at him. But I'm already married." I flashed the ring on my finger. This was the clever solution David came up with before leaving. I added, "A flash marriage." The Civil Affairs Bureau didn't require queuing. And the staff were very enthusiastic. We were married in no time. Chandler Taylor froze on the spot. I said sincerely, "By the way, I genuinely don't like you. It was the same in my past life." Chandler Taylor's eyes instantly lost their sparkle. The secretary, quick to read the situation, came over to clear the area for his boss. As Bella left, jealousy flashed in her eyes. She still wanted to say something to Chandler Taylor, but he didn't even spare her a glance. Chandler Taylor's thin lips were pressed tightly together, his face slightly pale. He grabbed my wrist and shook his head, saying, "I don't believe it. In our past life, you loved me so much." I scratched my head and asked, "Then why did you end up getting divorced?" Chandler Taylor fell silent, regret flashing in his eyes. "I was too presumptuous. I wanted my wife to be erudite and talented, yet also gentle and considerate. Revolving around me, I just didn't realize that educated, ambitious women wouldn't want to be housewives. What I truly want is someone like you, Kathy, someone who can stay by my side. I am ambitious, but your mother offered too much to refuse. Besides, I haven't really been there for you. You're the one who insisted on coming to me. Your secretary spends more time with you." But I didn't have the heart to say it. I was afraid he might burst into tears on the spot. Chandler Taylor frowned and asked, "Did Sarah say something bad about me?" I shook my head, not wanting to say anything more to him. I raised my phone and said, "That's enough. If you don't leave now, I'll call the police." Chandler Taylor's eyes widened instantly. Chandler Taylor left in utter disarray in the end. Chandler Taylor's mother somehow found out about him harassing female employees and sent me compensation for emotional distress, asking me to keep my mouth shut. $2 million. It wasn't as much as what Sarah helped me earn through investments, but still a considerable sum. I never saw Chandler Taylor again after that. I heard he was dragged back by his mother to study. As for Bella, she suddenly asked me out for coffee. I agreed. Sarah only said not to engage with Chandler Taylor, but never mentioned avoiding Bella. "Kathy, you and Brother Chandler are from different worlds. It'd be better for you to give up sooner rather than later. Stop clinging to Brother Chandler." I smiled faintly, unsure who was clinging to whom. "So do you want to marry Chandler Taylor?" My blunt words froze Bella momentarily. "You're not his girlfriend yet, are you? She's not even Mrs. Taylor yet, but she's already trying to intimidate me. How inappropriate." I racked my brains trying to recall Bella's fate from my dream, her ending in my past life. As a result, nothing was found. David and I went abroad and settled down in the place where Sarah had once lived. About 5 or 6 years later, I received a call from Chandler Taylor's mother. Turns out, Chandler Taylor had died. While sorting through Chandler Taylor's belongings, she discovered he had kept all my things all these years, along with the few photos we took together. He'd even sent numerous messages to my interface where I'd long blocked him, all trivial nothings. When you're hungry, you remember me. When you're done with this busy period, he wants to come find me and have a good talk. But there was never an end to that busy period. He fell ill. The dead deserve respect, and I still feel a twinge of sorrow in my heart. After all, he's the father of 3 char siu buns. Bella later seemed to have married an overseas Chinese tycoon. I once ran into her on the street. That tycoon treated her very well. Though he was somewhat older, I moved in with David. I don't like holding weddings. It feels like being put on display like a monkey. David didn't raise any objections. Living together was delightful. He forcibly broke me of my late-night habit. I changed jobs and took my original team with me when I switched companies. I just like slacking off after completing each project. It doesn't mean I'm truly lazy, of course. I'm no high achiever either. Having just a little bit of success is enough to satisfy me. Chandler Taylor came to see me one more time later. He said David was adopted, not the Williams' biological child. Now that the Williams had their own biological children, they'd long stopped caring about him, just giving him a few million in pocket money each year. Being with him would only bring me hardship. No wonder, many years ago, I happened to pass by and helped David chase away some older kids who were trying to rob him. That's why he's so grateful to me. I ignored Chandler Taylor and strode away briskly. Many years later, David and I lived happily with both cats and dogs. By then, Sarah had become a prominent rising star in the investment world. The campus heartthrob married into a wealthy family. All his entrepreneurial achievements were controlled by his wealthy father-in-law. He remained obedient throughout, and even his mother dared not speak harshly to the wealthy daughter. As for Chandler Taylor, he was also preparing to go abroad for medical treatment. Before leaving, he came looking for me. He stood under the street lamp, gazing at me for a long time. He said he died in his previous life 6 years after divorcing me. Just before boarding the plane to find me, he suddenly fell ill. He didn't look at me one last time. Chandler Taylor later tried to find me again, but couldn't locate me. I traveled the world with David, never heard from Chandler Taylor again, probably didn't make it. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.